Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're talking with Paul Tonioli. He's one of my neighbors and he is a veterinarian. Now, this is one of the first videos that I actually recorded over Zoom, so you'll notice a couple different things. Mostly my hair is a lot shorter in video. But I've been learning a lot of stuff as I've been making these videos. I appreciate everyone who's following along. I think we have 8 subscribers now. Thanks, Mom. And another thing that I've learned is that I hate recording these introductions, and they all seem kind of forced. So I'll probably shorten them from now on. This is not why you're here. You're here to listen to the conversation. So hope you enjoy. Paul Tonioli, what do you do?
I am a small animal veterinarian, which just means I work on cats and dogs compared to other animals.
No chickens.
No chickens, not right now.
Okay, great. What is the smallest animal you've ever worked on?
A mouse.
Okay, a pet mouse.
Yep. Well, I don't know. I did an internship at a place called MIT in Massachusetts,
Okay.
and it was a research. And so we were doing appendectomies on mice, and we would do tail draws of blood from their tails. So pretty unique and neat opportunity.
Why would a mouse need an appendectomy? Is this like for research purposes only? For
Yes.
okay, okay.
Yes. Drugs, human beings.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining somebody bringing in a pet mouse for an appendectomy, and I guess that's not really what it was.
No. No.
Cool. And what's the biggest animal you've worked on then?
Uh, the Rudy the camel.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in vet school.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds like you got quite the range there, but now you're just doing cats and dogs in your normal practice then.
Yes. I
Okay.
mean, now with that said, just for the sake of fun, veterinarians can do almost any animal they want to. Once you're done with vet school, you can be a cow doctor, a horse doctor, sheep, pigs, fish, wildlife, exotics, things like sugar gliders, rats, snakes, reptiles, iguanas. I've had sheep at my clinic. I've had goats. I've gone to my friend's place and worked on his horse. So you can do anything, but
Okay.
yes, for me specifically, the hospital I work at is just cats and dogs.
Okay. Do you have any interesting or funny stories from your career?
Oh, there's a lot. I think one of my favorite ones, funny one and interesting, is a dog by the name of William, and he's a Newfoundland. So he's a very big dog. He was about 135 pounds, and he swallowed an entire rubber ducky. Didn't chew it up or anything. He just swallowed the whole thing. So he was obstructed. We call that obstruction. So we had to go and remove the rubber ducky. And his parents, in their way of thanking me, brought me a very large rubber ducky. So I was very jumbo size, like this big. I don't know,
Nice.
big. Yeah. So that was kind of fun. Other interesting cases. I mean, veterinarians deal with cancer. Cancer cases are interesting. You have endocrinology things like diabetes or the verse of diabetes where you have too much sugar. I just was treating a dog that had what's called an insulinoma. So he had a cancer of the pancreas and he was creating so much insulin, he was hypoglycemic. So he didn't have enough sugar. So he'd always have seizures. So that's kind of interesting. Other interesting cases. Cats can be interesting. They do weird things. They also eat weird things. One cat loved shoelaces. Literally, I think I operated on him 3 times and removed shoelaces 3 times to where it was a grandmother that she started making her grandkids put their shoes in rubber totes when they came over to visit.
Okay.
So, so that's kind of interesting and fun. Um,
An ounce of prevention, I guess.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
totally, yeah, yep. So,
So are there other things? I mean, all of these things I never would have considered for a veterinarian. Are there other things that people maybe don't realize as part of your job?
yeah, I would say we're also psychiatrists. We are emotional support for owners. We I mean, we wear many hats. So I jokingly say, like, when an animal passes away, so we become a mortician.
Uh-huh.
We are obstetrics. We do, C-sections and AI. So we help puppies get pregnant. We help deliver puppies. When I say puppies, they're adult dogs. Um, what else to bet? Well, I own a business, so I'm the owner of the hospital. So from that aspect, I have to know how to run a business, how to do human resources. Um, I have an office manager who helps, but you have employees you have to deal with. Um, Another thing I do, I'm a maintenance guy. I'm a DIYer, so I fix a lot of my own equipment.
Hmm.
Um, so it's kind of some of that's personality, but it's also kind of part of the job because veterinarians we make a good living, but we are nothing like human doctors. Our bills because people pay out of their pocket. It's
Right.
more of a it's sort of discretionary. It's a real blessing and a privilege to own a pet. It's not just, for the rich. Um, but you do have to be able to sacrifice a little bit and take care of them.
Right. I won't get up on a soapbox about how I wish the human healthcare system was a little more like that, but
Yeah,
that's another
yeah.
topic for another day.
Yes, you can talk to an medical insurance people. There you go.
Yeah, right. So tell me about your
Very
normal day
good
at work.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so whew, for me, I have two schedules. One is a surgery week and one is a non-surgery week. So basically, we start at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get there at 8, and if I have appointments and non-surgeries, I go right into appointments at 8 o'clock. And we see appointments about every 20 minutes to 40 minutes. It depends on if they're healthy or sick. At the same time, we take phone calls. We have to answer phone calls. People need prescription refills. Um, in the middle of that, the X-ray machine will break down, and you have to go fix the X-ray machine, or the autoclave will break, or something will happen somewhere. So you have to go fix that, and then you have to go back to being in your room, meaning do exams.
Hmm.
And sometimes it can be hard. You go from a puppy that's super happy and healthy to a very sick dog, and you have to tell the owner they have cancer, to vaccines, healthy visits, and then you have to go into a euthanasia, and you have to kind of balance all of that and try to keep a happy face and a solemn face, and answer phone calls and deal with staff problems, and that's just about 10 o'clock in the morning. and
Yeah.
then, and then it happens again from 10 to noon almost. And then you have a lunch break, and then it goes from about 2 until 5:30, and we close. Oh,
Okay.
another thing, that's another thing actually. I guess another interesting thing for me at my practice that I forgot to tell you is I'm also a physical therapist. So
Okay.
I'm what they call a certified canine rehabilitation practitioner. So why don't we say physical therapy? Because that's actually a trademark legal terminology for humans that are actually um, master or PhD in physical therapy. So we have to
Okay.
call it canine rehabilitation. So in the mean of all that, I also have half of my hospital is a rehab facility. We have underwater treadmill. We have exercise equipment in the sense of the word. It's not like you think of like bicycles and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
we help animals who blow a knee, break their back, rupture a disc, be paralyzed, and we rehab them back to what we hope to be a more life, right? So I wear lots of hats, but I'm also very ADHD, so it keeps me busy, keeps my mind occupied. Um, on surgery, let's go to surgery. So when I have a surgery week, I'll get there around 8:30. We check in all the surgeries, and then we'll go through and we'll kind of structure like, oh, we do a spay, a neuter, orthopedic surgery, tumor removals, dentals. We do a lot of cleanings. We do teeth pulls. We do braces, not braces. I do root canals. That's another thing. Veterinarians do root canals. Not many. I'm actually one of the few. Um, so you look at your surgeries, you do all your physical exams, you draw blood on everybody, make sure everyone's healthy for anesthesia. You got to calculate all the medications you're going to need to sedate them, to keep them under anesthesia. We use an algorithm. It's not like we have to think that hard, but you put in
Yeah.
a computer and it generates the algorithm for you. We draw those drugs up. We sedate the animal. Then we scrub just like human beings. We scrub our hands for 5 minutes. We put on a gown, a mask, a hat. We look just like a human physician. We have to shave our animals a whole lot more because they have a lot more hair.
Yeah.
Um, we have nurses or technicians. It depends on how you want to call those. They do a lot of the work as well. They help with getting things ready. Um, then you go in, you do your surgery. We happen to be a laser surgery center, which just means we use a laser instead of a scalpel blade. So it reduces bleeding, reduces pain, increases healing time. Um, so we'll do about 6 to 7 surgeries between 8:30, 9-ish, and about 2 or 3. And then we see
Okay.
appointments again in the afternoon. And again, my board fills up with questions, people calling about prescription refills or their eye is nasty. Do they need to be seen? Or they're moving and they need medications for sedation, or just all sorts of questions come out. And then you have prescription refills too. I'll get 7 to 10 prescription refills throughout the day that you have to sign and make sure that the pet's got a current exam um, and things of that nature. Yeah,
Nice. Yeah,
yeah.
that's way more involved than I was thinking. Is that generally the case for most veterinarians, or how much of that is specific because you are also the owner of the practice?
Well, that's a very good question. The only thing that I would take out of a normal veterinarian's day is fixing equipment and dealing with staff problems. But at my hospital, one doctor doesn't do surgery. She didn't really like it. She's a much better internist, and so she doesn't do surgeries. But the other two are just like me. They'll show up at 8, 8:30, they get their surgeries going. They have to answer their own phone calls for their patients. They have to do their own prescription refills. Um, but like I said, they don't have to deal with staff issues or building maintenance issues. And I could choose not to do building maintenance, but again, we try to keep our costs down a little bit for employee or customers. And so by me doing it saves me having to pay some handyman.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's cool. That's interesting.
yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about kind of your job and how it fits in with your life. The first
Mm.
question, tell us about your compensation. Go ahead and be as specific or general as you feel comfortable with.
Oh yeah, no, I have a great living. I mean, we make a very comfortable living. Most of it now, this is a little bit of an interesting factoid, and I don't know if it's the same. When I got out of vet school back in 2003, so this is 21 years ago, I was $80,000 in debt, and my base salary was 40,000 with what they call a 21% commission. So anything I produced over a certain amount of money, I got 21% commission on that. So
Okay.
by 6 months into it, I was making about $70,000. So that was pretty good. Now, as time's gone on and everything has grown, um, we're as an owner, I'm probably a 120, 130,000 range,
Okay.
somewhere in that, maybe a little more. But most veterinarians now in the 2000 era are making anywhere between, I would say, 90, depends on where you work too. That's another big thing is who's your employer. So and if you're a specialist, that's something else we didn't talk about, is that there are veterinarians that are just to work on the eye. They're called an ophthalmologist like
Okay.
human beings. There
Uh-huh.
are cardiologists, neurologists, orthopedic surgeons, soft tissue surgeons. Even in the large animal, you have equine surgeons that just do equine surgery. You have bovine practitioners that just work on cows. So you can be very, very specialized. So some of those people might make up even as high as 200,000. But again, large city, major hospital, but you can also go down to say 50 or 60,000 in a small podunk little tiny town in the middle of nowhere. Um, and you're going to have people, it's just a matter, again, it's kind of your, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Demographics and your economy. If you think
Yeah.
about a Midwestern town that used to be huge with farming and agriculture, and now that's drying up, and you're down to 1,000 people, you're not going to have a ton of income, but you probably would be working multiple towns, because they're closer
Right.
together back east, right? And so you might draw from that. So it it's a very good profession. You make a good living. You're not as rich as say a human doctor. You're probably not as rich as someone who's in finance sometimes, people that do numbers. I don't know if I'd say accountants, but and again, accountants, I think it really depends on where you
Yep.
work as an accountant, right? Um, so all sorts of jobs. I mean, and I don't know if this is well, for example, even in teachers. So there's just been reported that um, what's it called? It's a government sponsored. Is it First Start? Um, they're in poverty. They get paid $20,000 or $25,000. They've gone to school as a normal teacher, but they love the Head Start program, and so they want to work for Head Start. But their salary is so low that they're actually in poverty and they have a college education, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes, why do I bring that up? Most people that they want to be a veterinarian, there's like it's like I've wanted to be one since I was a kid.
Hmm.
It's sort of rare to stumble on to becoming a veterinarian because all the schooling and the work and the pressure, you don't get paid. Like I could probably be richer if I really wanted more money if I was a human doctor, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I love my profession. I don't want to work on people. I worked in the human hospital and we're mean to each other. We kind of hurt each other. Animals, we can, they're compassionate, they're loving, um, and we give them relief by helping them, especially even when we say goodbye. Some people are like, oh, how can you say goodbye to pet? Well, when they're 15 years old, they're blind, they're deaf, they can hardly walk, they're peeing all over themselves. They don't have to live like that in a nursing home. We can say goodbye in a humane,
Yeah.
kind way, right? Um, the other thing, what was I going to talk about? Oh, a lot of people. So I have high school interns.
Okay.
My clinic is in Davis County, and Davis County has a program. I think they call it an internship program. So juniors and seniors, they find a job. I want to be an accountant. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be an electrician,
Hmm.
whatever. Um, they will go find these students places for internship. And so they'll come. And so I have two students every semester, usually two, and they come on A day or B day, just like most kids, and they shadow us to see what we do, right? And you say, why do you want to be a veterinarian? Oh, I hate people. Well, guess what comes with every single animal into the hospital?
Uh-huh.
People, right?
Yeah.
Now, you do not have to be a people person, but it helps to be a people person. For a few more examples, I mentioned earlier that we're psychiatrists, um, we're social workers, we're what's the word besides this, like a psychiatrist or a counselor. People come in, and I know so much about people's personal lives. I know about affairs. I know about deaths. I know about children and their bad habits that drive their parents crazy. I don't know if it's just me personally or if it's just being in a room with a pet and people want to open up and they want to talk. Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think some of it's personality. Like I have a very unique talent. I can see people and I see them once a year, for example, and somehow my gray cells, my Rolodex, will open up just like we left off our conversation, and I can ask some questions about X, Y, and Z, and it's been 6 to 8 months. And I've had many people go, man, how do you remember all that? I don't really know, but not everybody has that gift either.
Uh-huh.
But my point is, like one of my doctors, the doctor that doesn't do surgery, she's not really the most people person, right? But she's a good doctor and she is compassionate and she cares, but she probably doesn't know anything about her clients, you
Yeah,
know?
sure.
And it's not a bad thing. It's just her personality. Okay. In my vet school, we had one particular lady. She was a nurse. She had been a nurse for 25 years, I think she was, and she was tired of people. So she went back to school, got her credentials, got into vet school, and she realized, what? I have to interact with people? So she actually got through vet school and is actually doing research. Last I heard, she was in the third floor underground at the University of Washington studying who knows what on mice
Hmm.
and rats and just being a veterinarian on lab animals. But she only had to deal with like research people and not human, not
Right.
normal, day-to-day stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing about veterinary medicine. It is so diverse. You have nutrition you could work on. I want to do research. I want to do research on animals. Now, again, I said I went to MIT. There was a veterinarian who he was a great man. His name was Bob Marino. I love him. He was so nice. He mainly took care of all the research animals. He took care of their needs, their foods, when they got sick with research. He even sat in on when doctors want to do research on animals, they have to have a uh they write up a document like how many animals they need, why
Right.
they're using these animals, what the animals are going to suffer, not suffer, all of that. And he would sit in on those meetings. So, again, it is this, they have drug sale reps, just like human
Hmm.
drug sales reps that are veterinarians.
I've even
Like
heard
this,
that at slaughterhouses, you have to have a
yes,
veterinarian to check all the
yeah,
cows as they come in or
hmm
something like that.
yeah, absolutely. Yep. There's public health, just like with public health. A friend of mine, he works at Utah State, and he got his doctorate in animal public health and deals with zoonotic diseases that we as people can get from animals, right? So
Okay. Yeah.
it is so open. There are so many pathways. It is not just your basic take your dog and cat to me. It's amazing. There are thousands and thousands of pathways that people can do as
It
veterinarians.
is sounding like the education is a good foundation for
Yes,
a lot of options. Just because
it,
you go to veterinarian school doesn't mean that you're helping sick cats every day.
correct.
There's other
Exactly.
options. Yeah.
That's right. There are tons of options.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you feel like this is a pretty stable, secure kind of job then, right? People are always
Oh
going to have
yeah.
dogs and cats.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's amazing the influx of pet ownership. Now, COVID had a lot to do with it. People were
Mhm.
home, they were stuck, they thought I'd get a pet. But at the same time, here's sort of maybe it could be sad, could be good, doesn't matter, I guess. But people are having less children and they're choosing to
Right.
have pets instead of children, right? And the demands they want for their pets. So our industry, we rarely ever see um a collapse or like I don't what's a good what would disappear. AI might take away some jobs, right?
Right.
Robots might take away some jobs. No, veterinarians, nope.
Pretty safe.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Pretty
Yeah,
safe. Well, makes
yeah,
sense. So, for somebody who is interested in becoming a veterinarian, what do you have to do, and what are some things that maybe people should try to develop or personality traits that might be useful? We've already talked about a few, but why don't you
yeah.
walk us
Well,
through the education first, and then we can kind
yes.
of dig into some
So
of that.
that's good. Typically, just like any program, veterinarians have prerequisites to apply to their school. So my personal pathway was I went to Utah State and I
Okay.
got into what they call the veterinary. What did they call it? Oh, my brain just went blank. Give me just a second. What did they call it? Veterinary something degree.
Okay.
Basically, bioveterinary science. That's what it was called.
Okay.
Bioveterinary science, and it was all about getting me prepared to apply to vet school. So if I did not get in, I basically had a useless degree.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I took other classes, communication classes, a few business classes, because you got to get your generals and stuff like that.
Right.
But really, all you have to have is your chemistries, your biologies, some physics. Um, there's some core classes, statistics and stuff like that. And if you pass all of those really well, you could apply to vet school. You do not have to have a degree. You just have to have those
Oh,
classes.
interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Now, they want a well-rounded person, so you may not be high on the interview list, but by all accounts, you could apply. Okay.
Okay.
Now, the other thing
Well,
that I
actually, let
had,
me ask you,
yeah,
are those kinds of classes where even someone in high school could take them as a dual enrollment? Or is
yes,
this okay, interesting, great. So if someone is in high school, sophomore year, they already know they want to be a vet, then especially here in Utah, it's really easy for high school students to get college credit.
yes.
And as long as they're getting those specific classes that are required, you could potentially go straight to veterinary school right after you graduate high school if you can get in and you've taken all the classes.
Yeah, we actually had a few in Washington State who were high school students who had been accepted through high school. I think they had to do maybe 1 or 2 years of undergrad, but they knew they were in vet school. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah,
So it may not sound as sweet as you just made it sound, but it
right.
is somewhat feasible. But it's super competitive, right? I mean, it I'm really lucky I got in. I mean, some days I'm surprised I made it. I've had to work very hard, but we can go into that later. So the other thing I had to do was they want to know that you know what a veterinarian does. So I volunteered really. I didn't get paid at all at a vet clinic. I mowed his lawn, I cleaned his floors, I would help walk dogs. I actually had a job up at Utah State at the veterinary diagnostic lab. So that's where
Okay.
they do study in that particular building, they did necropsies, which are autopsies on why animals died. They studied viruses, so virology. That's another thing veterinarians could do. They had biology, bacteriology. There's one other one in there. But anyways, long story made short, you just have to have hours, whether you get paid or not. And then here's what's interesting too, is I just had a vet student come down and do about a month with me. He's in his second year. Well, he was between his first and second year of vet school, so it was during his summer. And he said that for him to get in, he applied and didn't get in. And they said, "Do you have any research?" So they had to do research. They had to go find
Oh,
somebody.
interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought because I was like, "Oh crap, I don't like research. I don't." I went to MIT and I did not. It was not for me, right?
Right.
Um, comparative. What did they call it? Animal comparative medicine or something like that. It was a degree. Like I could have gone a PhD and been a board certified animal research person, right? But it just wasn't my forte. Um, so that's something that might be new. As competitive it is, they want to see that you're well rounded. Like meaning for this, they want, are you on service? Are you on, I don't know, something like 4-H or beyond that, service programs, service groups,
Okay.
getting out
Yeah.
and doing community service things, you know? So are you involved in the community? Um, so schooling is important, good grades, having experience in a vet clinic, maybe a little bit of research, and then just well-rounded in being out in the community and volunteering and taking your time to help whomever or whatever, right? They really
Sure.
want a well-rounded individual. Um, what else?
So why don't you tell us about vet school then? Once you're
Yeah,
in,
okay.
once you're in, what does that entail? How long is it? How
Yep.
expensive is it?
Very good.
And even where are the vet schools? I have
Oh,
no
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
That's all right. No, that's a good question. So I got in after 4 years of school. I had a friend who got in after 3 years of school. So he was a year ahead of me. And his first year of vet school, he transferred back to Utah State to get a 4-year degree, right?
Okay.
So I got my 4-year degree and got into vet school. And once you're into vet school, it's just like starting over. You're in the first year and you learn your basics, and then you go to second year and you build on your basics, and then third year, so you got freshman, sophomore, junior, senior kind of thing, right? And in each year you learn more and more about anatomy or pathways of how like blood flows and hearts function and like what calcium does or things that just diseases. You start studying all sorts of diseases.
Hmm.
Second year of vet school is like being in front of a fire hydrant with no hose and you just hope you don't drown. It
Yeah.
is, I mean, I think I had like 25 credits. We had tests every 2 weeks, back to back, like 7 tests in a row, like day one, day two, day three, day four. And you're just cramming for one, study for the next one, study for the next one, and you purge, and you just hope it sticks.
Right.
And it does. You do okay. But it's very intense. And then for veterinarians, things are changing a little bit. But when I was there, you didn't even start seeing animals until your fourth year.
Okay.
Now, between your when your third year ends, the next day you're a fourth year student and you start your fourth year and you do rotations. Like I went to Kitsap, Washington. I went to Boston, like I said. I did some work in small animal hospitals. You do some work in large animal hospitals because you got to get all these experiences, right? And then you take a big test. And I'm not a big test taker. I took the GRE twice. I took the SAT twice. Actually, I had to take my national board twice. I missed it by just a few percentage points. Um, some people can take a test and not even study because they just know how to test.
Right.
It's not, I talk about being lucky. I'm slightly dyslexic. I've got ADHD. I don't read very well. So for me, it was very much so. I wanted it really bad, and I took and put everything I had into it. I didn't date much in college. Um, I was a lot of time in the library, but again, you have those kids that are just whip snap smart and they just get it. And that's
Right.
okay too, right?
Yeah.
So if you put your mind to it in any job, in this little video, if people are thinking whatever they put their mind to, once they're ready to do it, they can do it, right? So,
Right. Okay, so tell us more about the rotations at the end of veterinary school then.
yeah, so you get to pick kind of what track you want to do, and so you get to set up where you want to go. The university, Utah State University's got a vet school coming, and their whole fourth year is going to be outside. There's no teaching hospital. So I spent a
Okay.
lot of time in Pullman at the teaching hospital, but Utah State's not going to have one. So a clinic like mine would be somewhere where a student would apply to come, and they would come and spend a month, maybe two, and then they would go on to another hospital and another until their fourth year is over. And it'd be somewhat of our jobs as practitioners to teach them surgery, teach them
Hmm.
diagnostics, teach them room etiquette, diagnostic protocols, what tests to run, how drugs work, some of that. So that's a little bit of a strange twist.
Okay. For you, you were doing that mostly just within the hospital, so you would go to the
Hmm.
same hospital throughout the
Yeah.
time, even if you were doing different rotations.
Hmm. Yeah. Spent a month in the barn with the horses, 2 weeks with the cows. That's like I said, the exotic animals, ruby, sheep, stuff like that.
Okay.
3 months in small animal because you would go like I said, you do a 3 week cardiology. So you just did heart for 3 weeks with the cardiologist, or you would do neurology with the neurologist, or ophthalmology with the ophthalmologist. Does that make sense? So you would spend
Right.
a period of time, and I can't exactly remember if it was a week, 3 weeks. Usually it was 2 to 4 on these rotations in very specific um, uh, man, my brain just went blank. Well,
Specialties,
yeah,
specific.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
genres is what I wanted to say, but I didn't think genres was right. So
Oh, we would have gotten it. That makes sense.
that's about
Yeah.
literature. So,
Right. That's great. So, do you have any other kind of final advice for someone who's interested in becoming a veterinarian?
uh, yeah, I think just don't give up. I mean, it's almost like nursing school or med school. In undergrad, you're with all the med students, all the nursing students, all the wannabe doctors of dentistry or whatever. They're all in their zoology classes. They're all in your biology classes. Um, so you belong. You can
Hmm.
compete with these people. You can be just as smart or smarter. Um, Getting into vet school can be challenging. So you don't want to give up within reason. What I mean by that is usually takes 2 or 3 times to get in. Like I said, for me, I was really lucky. Oh, that was another quick. Where the vet schools? All right, so we have one coming to Utah State. So the University of Utah State University right now has
Okay.
what's called a 2x2 program, where you apply, you get in, you do 2 years at Utah State, and then you go up to Washington State, where I went to school, and you do 2 years there.
Okay.
Washington State has one. There's one in Oregon. There's one in Colorado. There's a couple in California. I mean, there's 27 or 30 vet schools.
Okay.
Um, they're all throughout, Mississippi, Massachusetts, Iowa, Kansas,
That's
Oklahoma.
interesting. That's actually a lower number than I expected.
Mm,
But I mean, I guess you learn something new every day.
yeah. But they're like I said, they're all over. There are also 12 new vet schools, Utah State being one of them,
Okay.
on to scheduled to come online in the next 4 to 6 years.
Okay.
So they'll go from 30 to 42 or something like that, right? So
Sure.
it may not be as hard to get into vet school. Another thing that just kind of, I don't know where it's going to go, but the state of Colorado just passed some legislative work that they're going to have a mid-level veterinary practitioner.
Oh, great. Like a nurse
Yeah.
practitioner or physician
Uh-huh.
assistant. Okay.
We'll see if it actually takes off. A lot of veterinarians don't like the idea. I'm not sure why they're opposed to it. It's hard enough to find veterinarians, so why not have I think they're worried about training. Change always scares people, but
Right.
focusing back on getting into vet school, if it really is something that you're truly passionate about, give it at least 2 or 3 applications, which is kind of scary because that's 2 or 3 years of your life waiting. Um, and really try to pay attention if it's meant to be. If it's not meant to be, it's okay. You can find something else that will suit your fancy, and you'll look back in 20 years and go, this is why I need to be in this job. and not a veterinarian. So,
Is this something where you can apply to like all 30
mhm.
vet schools and
Yeah,
see which
yeah.
ones you get in? Okay.
It's just a matter of money. I applied
Yeah.
to 5 vet schools when I applied.
Hmm.
I applied for 5. I was a alternate in Iowa. I was this, and that, what does that mean? Well, I was the 77th alternate. So if 77 people said no, thank you, I get in.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But I got into Washington through the state of Idaho.
That's it. That's the conversation. As always, please put your questions for Paul down below in the comments, and we'll try to get those answered. And remember to share the channel with all of your career curious friends.